Time now for the Sunday Talk, where we tap into the debate of the week. This week, public relations fails. From Pepsi to United Airlines to the White House press secretary, there's plenty who were left asking, what were they thinking? For some, this was Pepsi staging a corporate takeover of social justice. With reality TV star Kendall Jenner, pop can in hand, invoking the real iconic image of a Black Lives Matter protester. Twitter blew up. The ad was quickly pulled, Pepsi apologized, but online it isn't forgotten or forgiven. Then it was United Airlines' turn to fly into some PR turbulence when a peaceful but persistent passenger gets hauled off an overbooked plane to make room for airline employees.
Busted his lip.
Oh my God!
Newsflash United, everybody has a camera, and stories like this travel. United CEO initially called it a reaccommodation, while a leaked memo showed him blaming the passenger for being belligerent.
No, I'm not going.
The not-so-surprising result? A boycott trended on Twitter. United CEO went on TV to say he was ashamed. The company changed its policies yesterday, but its stock price still hasn't recovered. Sean Spicer's stumble was spectacular.
Someone as despicable as Hitler, who didn't even sink to using chemical weapons.
Nothing says happy Passover like downplaying the Holocaust.
And he brought him into the Holocaust Center. I understand that.
From this White House, it could be the first full-throated apology the world has ever seen. And boy, did we see it.
I made a mistake. I apologize. It was a mistake to do that. I made a mistake. I'm owning up to it.
I'm joined by our panelists. Tasha Carradine is a radio talk show host in Toronto. Jonathan Kay is editor-in-chief at Walrus Magazine. And Elamin Abdelmahmoud is social media editor at BuzzFeed Canada. And a new dad. Congrats, Elamin.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's big news at the panel. But let's talk. This was an incredible week. Everyone got very excited about all of these stories. What did you think? Did anyone succeed, Tasha, in making their disaster go away?
Well, I think of the three, I think Pepsi made their disaster go away the quickest. They issued an apology after it was clear, it wasn't immediate, but it was clear that public opinion was trending against this ad. They issued a very decisive apology. They even apologized to Kendall Jenner for dragging her into the mess. They pulled the ad itself. So it sort of put a stop to it. It was very unequivocal. So I think of the three, they probably came out the best, though not completely unscathed.
You were watching this blow up on Twitter, Elamin. What did you think of the way that they handled it?
Pepsi? I mean, listen, I think Pepsi handled this by the book, which is to say they waited a minute to see how the reaction is going to go, and then immediately afterwards they came out and said, this was our bad, we misread the situation, and they put out one apology and then got out of the way. And that was the best thing they could possibly do because people continue to make fun of it. It's sort of now old news, you know, like in the sense that like people on Twitter have moved on to making fun of other things. And that's the best possible way for them to handle it, is just say we're sorry, say we messed up, and then just get out of the way.
So it was speedy. Was that enough, John?
Yeah, why are they apologizing to Kendall Jenner? I mean, is this an adult? No, but that's an adult who knows.
She has fans, that's why.
But she knows what she's doing. Like, you know, it's very infantilizing. Like, I mean, she knew what she was doing. I didn't understand the logic of that.
She received a lot of hate from that.
But so what? She went in there voluntarily. But it shows how cynical this is, which is basically like you put out a commercial, people don't like it, and then you apologize. But for what? What exactly are you apologizing for? You're basically apologizing for the fact that people don't like something.
Well, some people were even speculating that it was all a stunt. Like, I watched the ad, I'm not sure I would have seen it otherwise.
They spent a lot of money on it, though. I don't think they intended it to fail. But the irony is actually 44%, there was polling done, 44% of people actually did like the ad. This came out about a week later.
Those people were not on Twitter.
But they weren't on Twitter, right? And it's the social media, I agree, the social media frenzy that ensued that probably spurred Pepsi to action.
But that's the thing, it seems like our culture, and certainly the way corporations react to this sort of thing, is guided by a bunch of 18 to 29-year-olds tweeting in their pajamas saying, well, I don't like this.
And also 18 to 29-year-olds starting a movement, right? Like this, they're trying to capture that movement, trying to say, we understand
the protest movement.
And exactly.
Protest movement, you actually have to get out of your pajamas and go on the street. These are people who are tweeting.
John,
and to my mind,
this is not about new versus old ways of protesting.
To my mind, it's very lazy, and it's kind of like, what are we going to get pissed off at today? Oh, Pepsi, I can do that. Next day, United. I feel like it's very cynical. And corporations are being led around by the nose by people who are taking a very reflective...
It was a stupid ad. It was a stupid ad.
It was
stupid.
It wasn't offensive. It was stupid, but it wasn't offensive. If Coke could put out ads saying we're going to solve the confrontation between the Americans and the Russians by giving everyone sugar water, why can't Pepsi do the same with cops and black
I think
people?
the offense isn't trying to, capitalize on a momentum of a movement, right? And trying to say we understand this movement and you could solve it by giving a cop a Pepsi. That is an offensive statement.
Okay, we got to move on to United.
Offensive
Yeah,
things.
there's no bells here. I can't say who won. We'll decide at the end. So United, they were not speedy, Tasha.
No, they were not. They were actually probably the poster child of what not to do, because initially there was a very lukewarm attempt at apologizing, if you want to call reaccommodating people apology, and then it came out that behind the scenes, in fact, the CEO was standing behind his people, and that of course made the whole thing continue. And then there was the fact also the passenger had actually been seriously injured here. There was actually, there was a legal case to make. He lost 2 teeth and had a concussion, and people saw this on social, not just social media, but on the, it was everywhere.
Was there any way of making up for this, Halloween?
Of course there was. Of course there was. I think the most egregious part about this was, but they had to backtrack. Yeah. There is boilerplate that's well established for this, which is we're concerned, everyone's horrified, we're investigating. Be quiet. It's not a difficult thing to control. Go and say we're doing an investigation, and then come back and reveal what that investigation actually says. But to come out and, first of all, make any comments at all, and then have to backtrack them after your stock has gone down so much, makes you look much, much worse.
And it's very cynical. That's exactly
there's a
why
boilerplate that's established.
First of all, I just want to say I was completely appalled by what happened with the United Airlines thing.
But
and also I should say we shouldn't even talk about it in the same breath as Pepsi. Pepsi put out a stupid ad. You had United. You had a guy being dragged down the carpet of an airliner, losing 2 teeth. That's absolutely horrible. I'm not Mr. Social Justice, but I was appalled by it. I was even willing, briefly, to consider redoing my travel plans when I saw it. That's how angry I was. However, it's also the case that if you have a CEO who has 2 constituencies, he has customers, but he also has thousands of employees. And you can understand why his first reflex is, we're a team, and I'm going to stand behind my team members. Someone on my team makes a mistake, we've got to show solidarity.
That's not
and
the way
I'm
to do that.
okay, he made the wrong calculation, but it's a legitimate reflex. And by the way, we saw that here in Canada. Globe and Mail newspaper, one of their columnists wrote a weird column, and you had the editor-in-chief make a decision. We're going to suspend the columnist. Maybe that might make some readers happy.
Breastfeeding a baby and dragging a man down a plane, there's no parallel.
That might make some readers happy, but it makes your staff upset because you're not standing behind them.
I will give you a parallel. I will give you a parallel that I will say when the banks took a bit of a beating, when there were some investigations done by CBC and on the whole upselling issue, and there you saw also some statements that were encouraging, I think, the sort of team aspect, trying to say, you know what, it wasn't obviously anything like the United in what happened, but the team reflex. I see what you're saying, but in this case, when you have images of a man that essentially got beat up on a plane, to have that reflex, I think the CEO really had to give his head a shake.
He made the wrong call, but the reflex was not illegitimate.
No, the least you could have done is just add a sentence to that boilerplate, right? And just say, we are concerned, we're investigating, and we stand behind the employees.
And contact the individual. They did not do that immediately.
Wait 2 days.
Before his lawyers then go out in front of the press. That's what was the worst part, I think.
So we have another one. I'm going to let you start on this one, John. Sean Spicer, those comments, does the press secretary need a press secretary? That was quite something.
I thought that was a magnificent set of apologies. I think he owned up to what he did. And by the way, I should say, I wasn't even that offended by what Sean Spicer said. Stupidity itself, ignorance, is not itself offensive.
It's very gentle of you.
Cynicism can be offensive. Willfully lying or being manipulative, that can be offensive. If you just don't know your history or you say something stupid, that actually doesn't.
But are you allowed to not know that history?
I think you're not allowed, that there is no law against being ignorant. And
it's not just about history, though. It's not even not knowing the history. He is the spokesperson for the President of the United States. Trump suffers from the whole problem of he's ignorant, he doesn't understand things, he doesn't, he makes a mistake about, is the bomb going to Iraq or is it going to Syria? Exactly. But then when his press secretary does the same thing, it only reaffirms that piece of what people don't like about Trump.
I agree with you. He's out of his league, he's incompetent. That doesn't mean it offends me. And the Pepsi thing also didn't offend me.
It offended a lot of people, though. It offended, people have called for his resignation.
I think we live in an age where people want to be offended. Some guy being ignorant shouldn't offend us. We just roll our eyes and move on.
Even if people wanted to be offended, this is not the bar, right? Like, this is clearly an offensive thing that happened.
Tell me why it's offensive for some guy to be ignorant.
Because he's the White House press secretary.
But that
you
means
don't
he's
get to be
incompetent. It
ignorant of that
doesn't mean he has malign motives. I mean, I happen to think that the Trump administration does have malign motives, but this is not our indication that it does.
So here's a guy, you watch him every day when he's giving his daily briefing, and he's sort of at war with this, with the press, with the daily, and they're asking him, they're poking him all the time. Should they be allowed to make a mistake? Is that just human? Because that's what a lot of journalists were arguing, was that the guy made a mistake. He apologized.
Oh, sure, he should be allowed to make a mistake. It's just like not on this magnitude. This is, I think there are mistakes that are allowable. I think this is a not allowable kind of mistake. If you're the White House press secretary and you say Hitler didn't use chemical, oh my God,
it's not just
really? Are we
going
talking about this?
and comparing people to Hitler, and the Holocaust is a very, you cannot get away with
Well, isn't that a basic PR rule? Do not talk about Hitler?
Don't talk about it. Just don't go there, because
Not
really
hard.
you can't win. And people have compared Trump to Hitler. Yes, that you've seen that on social media, more in terms of how he behaved like a dictator, but not he killed X people.
I'm not saying the guy's good at his job. I'm saying you can be terrible at your job and not offend people. And our response to that should be to roll our eyes and not say, I'm offended.
Well, should he be fired, though? That's the real question.
Of course he should. He should have been fired a month ago. But,
For other things.
But not because he's offensive, because he's not good at his job.
We're almost out of time. I just want to know, did we actually learn anything here? Will any behavior change? Like you said, you weren't going to book United. Are you now? Like, are people going to stop buying Pepsi or...
Well, the stock price of United is still down. They're revising their policies in terms of how they rebook airline crews. So certainly things, I think, will change. Will they change to the extent that this will never happen again? I hope so, but you never know.
It's not like there's a lot of shows in terms of the Coke and Pepsi show. Like you got to pick one or the other. So I don't think people are going to leave Pepsi or the Pepsi tent just because of this dumb ad. I think they'll be like, if you've drank Pepsi for the last 10 years, you'll still continue to drink it. I don't think it's going to affect that.
I don't think it's going to affect my view of Donald Trump. Let's put it that way. It's just, I think I have the same view I had a month ago. Let's leave it at that. Yeah.
And the United flight?
United flight, I'm willing to give them a second chance, but if somebody asks me to leave my seat, I'm probably going to comply.
Or ask for a lot of money.
That got dark.
Well, it was quite the week. Thank you all very much.